Okay, guys, I'm in my bedroom trying to record this movie list. So what these are movies that I definitely recommend, and they're movies that I recently watched myself, actually, that um, I gave an opportunity to, and I had read some things online. The first one is True Love, 1993. Um, Now, some people don't like romance movies and stuff like that, but this one wasn't really that bad. And I would probably give it like well, it's definitely like a six probably. The next one is American Beauty, 1999. Um, I like that movie honestly. I know some people thought it was kind of like controversial and stuff, but I thought that there was some great funny, stuff in it. Some interesting music as far as soundtrack went as well. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why people didn't like it. I would probably give it a seven. Um, the next one is one of my favorite movies, honestly, and that's Forrest Gump, 1994. I thought Tom Hanks did an amazing job in that movie. I mean, that's probably up there with his work in like Castaway, for example. That's another movie actually that's next. Castaway is another movie that I recently watched all the way through, and I really enjoyed it. Um, the next one after that is 1998, The Truman Show with Mr. Jim Carrey. Um, so again, some people didn't like that movie. I thought that was one of his best movies because it wasn't his typical role as far as comedy goes. It was more of like telling a story about somebody's life, and it has a really interesting plot to it too, and a great soundtrack as well. Um, After that is 1995, Apollo 13, which is a space adventure movie with astronauts. Um, yeah, I didn't think Apollo 13 was a bad movie at all. I don't know why people gave it bad reviews either. Um, I would give it an 8 in my opinion. I think it's pretty good. Um, and then the last one on here is As Good as It Gets with Jack Nicholson. Um, I like Jack Nicholson's movies. I mean, I think that he's a very creative actor. He's had a great career. I would say that there's lots of other movies that he was in that were One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, for example. That's a great movie by him. The Stand. He had a small little role in that. I mean, Jack Nicholson's The Shining, for example. I'm trying to think here. Easy Riders, I think that's the other one. Is that the right one? I'm trying to think here. Anger Management, he was in that as well. The Departed, which was a mob movie. Um, yeah, I think he's definitely done a lot in his career. Um, Jack Nicholson has always been one of my very favorite actors. He's funny. He's consistent with the movies that he picks. Um, so the next review is right here. I'm reviewing the Dirty Harry movies. Um, Now I don't know exactly all the titles for all the individual movies. I'm just gonna review the whole series in general. Um, so what would I say about the series? Some movies are very interesting with action, but they have a lot of slow parts as well. There is some humor in them. Um, Clint Eastwood has always been a very creative and outgoing actor. He's always done a great job in most of all of his movies that he was involved in. Um, what is my rating for the whole series? Honestly, because I've seen all the movies basically. Um, I would say give them a chance. They are '70s movies. In early '80s. So I mean, it really depends on whether you're interested or not in watching them. Classic lines and a lot of them, classic fight scenes. Um, Really cheesy music though, honestly, and most of the music is pretty bad. uh, early turntables music, basically. I would give the series probably a 7.4 in my opinion. It's definitely not like a 9 or 10 by any means, but it's definitely watchable. It's just some things aren't really worth, uh, you know, I guess, watching. I mean, like the first movie, honestly, in my opinion, is not very interesting. Um, but as the series gets on, it gets a little bit more interesting with some of the plots and some of the characters. But yeah, the first one to me was kind of boring, honestly. But it just depends on the person. So um, the next one that we're gonna review is Alien Resurrection, which I was very impressed with that movie. Honestly, I think that is a great movie. I don't know why people didn't like that either. I think that that should have, gotten some type of an award for best, horror movie of that year. I don't understand why people didn't like it. What would I give it? I like all the Alien movies in my opinion, so I would totally give it like an 8, honestly. It's really good. Um, where are we now? Anaconda, there we go. I've never reviewed that movie and I love that movie. Plus Jennifer Lopez. Who doesn't want to see that? So, um, what would I say to watching it again? I probably would watch it again. I actually liked it. I thought it was not a bad movie. Um, I would give it at least like a 6, honestly, in my opinion. There's some great action scenes in it. Pretty interesting comedy. And there are some interesting cameos as well. So yeah, I would totally watch it again. Um, The Relic. Now, some people thought The Relic was a really cheesy '90s horror movie, but I don't know. I think it's just as good as like Species, um, for example, and like Demon Knights, the Tales from the Crypt movie. I definitely think The Relic is one of the only movies that probably would say I've watched at least 4 or 5 times, and I really enjoyed it. Um, so that's a little bit of part of the list one. Um, the next one is Wishmaster. Wishmaster, again, it's a cheesy horror movie, but there are some funny stuff and involved with it. I like the plot, and the soundtrack is pretty awesome, honestly. Um, After that is Bride of Chucky, which I've seen numerous times in my life, and every time I see it, it just keeps getting better and better, honestly. I would give it at least a 7. Um, Curse of the Puppet Master is the next one. Um, and I talk about the Puppet Master a lot because I really enjoy those movies. This movie was probably like a 5 in my opinion. It's not as good as the other ones, but it just kind of eh. It just depends on the person. Um, the next one is one of my favorite Halloween movies, which is Halloween H2O. Jamie Lee Curtis, uh, LL Cool J. I can't remember all the people who are in it. I think Joshua Jackson, I think, is in it too. Um, that I think is one of the best Halloween movies ever made, in my opinion. Um, the plot is just amazing and very creative, honestly. Um, so yeah, and I remember watching it at least 4 or 5 times. And what would I say? The soundtrack is freaking awesome. I mean, you've got like hard rock on it, and it's just I don't know, it's just really good. Um, the next two are actually Phantasm 1 and 2. Um, Now some people think that Phantasm is kind of creepy and most people don't want to give it an opportunity. Um, I personally like Phantasm 1 and 2. I thought that they were really, I don't know, like, it's a totally different horror movie, honestly, for both of ones, because they tell a story and they kind of continue with it in the second one. Some of the killing scenes in it are pretty gross, though. It just depends on what you can really take as far as is your phobia with chainsaws and graphic stuff, I guess. The Tall Man is pretty creepy, honestly. Um, the next one is Psycho, the remake with Vince Vaughn. I was very impressed with that, actually. I've seen it a few times, and I think that's one of Vince Vaughn's best movies because he just plays the character so well. And I think that was a great role for him. The next one is Urban Legends 1 and 2, which I've seen several times as well, and I think those are one of the 90s trilogy movies that I think are well written. The cast is great. Keeps you going. It keeps you interesting. Soundtrack is really good. Um, what I give it? I would give it probably probably an 8. Yeah. The next one is 1999 Blair Witch Project, the very first movie, which I think is a awesome movie because it's very creepy the way that they shot it. It was one of the very first movies that they shot like that. Um, and I really enjoy that movie. I would definitely recommend people checking that out. Even if you don't like scary movies, you might still find it kind of funny and interesting with some of the characters. Um, that, in my opinion, is a 9. That's a great movie. Um, and then there's a one other movie I'm going to review here. Hang on. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, 2. Deep Blue Sea. So I know some people think it's a really cheesy movie, but I really love that movie. It is funny. It is considered a horror movie, but I don't see it that way. I mean, some of the special effects are really outgoing and creative. The storyline is really great. Um, yeah, the soundtrack is really good too. I would definitely give that movie an 8, honestly. That's a great movie. Um, the last one on here is Candyman. Now, I grew up watching the first movie. I just recently saw the second movie. I would say the first and second movie are pretty decent, but when they got into more than that, I think that they kind of ruined it. Candyman is definitely an interesting movie, though. Um, Kind of gross at parts, but I like the background story. So yeah, these are a few movies that I wanted to recommend for you guys to check out. I'll probably be back sometime in the next few days with a few other lists. This is just something I wanted to do. So, okay, I will get back to you in a few days. Everybody, enjoy the video, comment below, and hit me up on here and ask questions if you want like movies to be reviewed. I am thinking about doing another episode of the 80s Review Show sometime soon. Comment below and add me. Thanks.